The call from my father came exactly 3 days before my restaurant's grand opening. I was elbow deep in prep work, testing my signature sauce one last time when his ringtone shattered my concentration. "Vienna, sweetheart. About your opening night." His voice carried that familiar tone, the one that always preceded disappointment. "Your mother and I won't be able to make it. Your cousin Derek's having his 30th birthday party that evening. And you know how your aunt gets about these things." The wooden spoon in my hand trembled slightly. "Dad, I sent you the invitation 2 months ago. This is literally my life's dream coming true. Now, don't be dramatic. It's just a restaurant. Derek's birthday is a family milestone." A cousin I hadn't seen in 5 years was apparently more important than the daughter who'd spent every penny she had, worked 3 jobs, and sacrificed everything to make this happen. "Right," I managed, my voice tight. "A milestone. You could always postpone." "No." The word came out sharper than I intended. "The date's set. The reservations are booked. Everything's ready." Stuart, my best friend and soon-to-be host, walked into the kitchen just then. One look at my face and he knew. He'd been there through everything. The countless rejections from investors, the nights I cried myself to sleep, the moments I almost gave up. "Your sister Valerie's coming though, right?" Dad asked, his voice brightening at the mention of his favourite daughter. "Let me guess. She's going to Derek's too?" "Well, she is bringing the cake. You know how everyone loves her baking." I closed my eyes, remembering all the times they'd praised Valerie's store-bought desserts while ignoring the elaborate meals I'd prepared from scratch. "Got it. Enjoy the party." "Vienna." I hung up before he could finish. Stuart immediately pulled me into a hug, and I allowed myself exactly 5 seconds of weakness before straightening up. "Their loss," he said firmly. "We're going to make this opening legendary." I nodded, turning back to my sauce. You know what the worst part is? They never even tried. Not once. Mom called it a pipe dream. Dad suggested I get an accounting degree instead. Even when I got accepted to culinary school, they acted like I was throwing my life away. "And now you're about to prove them all wrong," Stuart grinned, sampling the sauce. "Holy shit, V. This is incredible." "It better be. Everything has to be perfect." I grabbed my checklist, pushing thoughts of my family aside. "We've got 3 days to turn the Savory Soul into the best damn restaurant this city's ever seen." "And we will," Stuart promised. "With or without them." I smiled, but inside a small part of me still ached for the family support I'd never had. Little did I know karma was about to serve up something none of us expected. Opening night arrived in a blur of controlled chaos. I'd been in the kitchen since dawn, directing my small but dedicated team through prep work. Every sauce, every garnish, every detail had to be perfect. "Vienna." Stuart burst through the kitchen doors at 6:45 p.m., 15 minutes before opening. "You need to see this." "Kind of busy here," I said, carefully plating samples for the staff to taste. "Trust me, you want to see the line outside." Curious, I followed him to the front. Through the window, I saw at least 30 people waiting. My heart skipped a beat. "They're actually here," I whispered. "Of course they are. Your food is—" Stuart stopped mid-sentence, his face going pale. "Holy shit." "What?" "That's Greg O'Connor." My stomach dropped. Everyone in the restaurant industry knew Greg. The food critic whose reviews could make or break a restaurant. He was notorious for showing up unannounced on opening nights, catching new establishments at their most vulnerable. "Are you sure? The grey hair, the leather notebook, that stupid bow tie he always wears? It's him." I gripped the nearest table for support. "He can't be here, not tonight, not when we're just starting." "V, breathe." Stuart grabbed my shoulders. "This is good. This is your chance to show everyone what you can do." The next few hours passed in a high-stakes blur. I threw myself into every dish, checking each plate personally before it left the kitchen. Greg ordered the braised short ribs, my signature pasta, and the caramelized fig dessert. "Table 7 wants to speak with the chef," my server announced around 9 p.m. Greg's table. Walking out to the dining room felt like moving through molasses. Greg sat there, bow tie slightly askew, empty plates before him. He stood as I approached. "You must be the chef," he said, extending his hand. "I have to say, I came here expecting to find another mediocre newcomer." My heart sank. "Instead," he continued, "I discovered something extraordinary. That sauce on the short ribs. It's unlike anything I've tasted in this city. And the pasta? Perfect al dente, balanced flavors. You've created something special here." "Thank you," I managed, my voice barely a whisper. "Expect my review in tomorrow's paper. And," he paused, pulling out his business card, "expect a lot more customers. Word of advice, don't change a thing." After he left, Stuart found me in the kitchen, tears streaming down my face. "He loved it," I said, laughing through the tears. "He actually loved it." "Of course he did." Stuart hugged me tight. "Now, are you ready to tell your family?" I wiped my eyes, remembering their empty seats at the family table I'd hopefully reserved. "No," I said. "Let them find out with everyone else tomorrow morning." Greg's review hit the morning paper like a lightning bolt. By noon, our phone was ringing non-stop, and our online reservation system crashed twice. Stuart had to hire 2 more hosts just to manage the flood of calls. "Look at this," he said, shoving the newspaper across my prep station. "The Savory Soul isn't just a restaurant, it's a revelation. Chef Vienna has created something truly extraordinary in this intimate space. The flavors are bold yet nuanced, familiar yet innovative. This is more than just dinner. It's an experience that will leave you questioning why you ever ate anywhere else." I was about to respond when Landon, the investor who'd laughed me out of his office 6 months ago, walked into my kitchen unannounced. "Vienna!" he boomed, arms wide. "My friend, my visionary chef." "We're closed for lunch prep," I said coldly, not looking up from my chopping board. "Come on, don't be like that. I admit I was wrong about you, but I'm here now, and I'm ready to invest. We could expand, open more locations." "Like you were ready to invest when I begged you for a chance." The knife hit the cutting board with a sharp thwack. "When you told me I was just another wannabe chef with delusions of grandeur." His smile faltered. "The market was different then." "No, Landon. You didn't believe in me then. I don't need you now." Stuart appeared beside me, arms crossed. "I'll show you out." As they left, I noticed movement outside the window. My parents stood there peering in, their faces pressed against the glass like children at a candy store. Mom's hand was raised as if she wanted to wave, but dropped when our eyes met. "Your parents are here," Stuart announced, returning. "Want me to tell them we're closed?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Valerie. "OMG sis, just saw the review. Why didn't you tell us Greg O'Connor was coming? Mum and Dad are freaking out." I showed Stuart the message. Funny how they care now that someone important validated me. "What are you going to do?" I watched my parents through the window, remembering all the times they'd dismissed my dreams, all the family dinners where they'd praised Valerie's career choices while treating my culinary ambitions like a phase I'd outgrow. "Let them stand there," I said, turning back to my prep work. "Let them see what they missed out on." V. "I'm serious, Stuart. They had their chance to be part of this. They chose a birthday party instead." As if on cue, my phone started ringing, Dad's number flashing on the screen. I declined the call and continued chopping, each precise cut of my knife feeling like sweet, sweet karma. "Tell the staff we're having a team meeting in 10, I said. "We need to prepare for tonight. I have a feeling it's going to be busy." 2 weeks after Greg's review, my parents finally managed to corner me. I was doing inventory in the wine cellar when Stuart called down. "Your parents are here," he said, his voice tight. "And, V, they look rough." I climbed the stairs to find them sitting at the bar. Dad's usual crisp suit was wrinkled, and Mom's perfectly maintained hair showed visible roots. They looked smaller somehow, deflated. "Vienna, sweetheart?" Mom started, reaching for my hand. I kept them firmly at my sides. "We've been trying to reach you." "I've been busy. Running a successful restaurant takes work." The words came out sharper than intended. Something you both said I'd never manage. Dad cleared his throat. About that. We were wrong. Very wrong. And we need to talk to you about something important. Now you want to talk, I laughed, but there was no humour in it. Not when I was working 3 jobs to save up. Not when I needed a co-signer for my business loan. Not when... The business is failing, Dad blurted out. My business. 25 years of work. Gone. The bank's foreclosing on the house. The silence that followed felt heavy enough to crush us all. We thought, Mom's voice cracked, we thought maybe you could help. Give your father a job, or maybe... a loan. I stared at them, wondering if this was some cruel joke. You want money? From your daughter's pipe dream? We know we don't deserve it, Dad said, his voice barely a whisper. But we're family. Family? The word tasted bitter in my mouth. Where was family when I needed you? When I was sleeping on Stuart's couch because I couldn't afford rent and restaurant supplies? When I cried myself to sleep because my own parents wouldn't even taste my food? Vienna. No. I cut Mom off. You don't get to play the family card now. Not when it's convenient for you. Stuart appeared at my side, protective as always. I think you should leave. Dad stood up, his shoulders slumped. We'll figure something out. We're sorry to have bothered you. They were almost at the door when I called out, Wait. They turned, hope flickering across their faces. Come to dinner tomorrow night. Bring Valerie, 7 o'clock sharp. You'll help us? Mom asked. I met their eyes, keeping my expression neutral. I'll serve you dinner. What happens after that depends on you. After they left, Stuart touched my arm. What are you planning? I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. I'm going to serve them the most important meal of their lives. It's time they got a taste of their own medicine. Just don't do anything you'll regret. Oh, I won't regret this, I promised. Not one bite of it. I spent all day preparing the family dinner, selecting each ingredient with surgical precision. The private dining room was set for 4, my parents, Valerie, and me. Stuart insisted on staying nearby, worried about what might unfold. They arrived exactly at 7. Valerie strutted in first, designer purse swinging, followed by our parents, who looked even more haggard than yesterday. This place is actually nice, Valerie said, glancing around. Though the lighting could be better for Instagram. Sit, I said, gesturing to the table. We'll start with an amuse-bouche. I brought out the first course, a single spoon containing a perfect bite of something familiar. This... Mum's eyes widened as she tasted it. This is Grandma's potato soup. The one you used to make when we were sick, I said. The recipe you refused to teach me because Valerie should learn it first. She's the eldest. Valerie shifted uncomfortably in her seat. The second course, I continued, bringing out small plates, is the pasta dish Dad said would never sell. The one he called too fancy for regular people. The same dish Greg O'Connor praised in his review. Dad stared at his plate, unable to meet my eyes. Vienna, Mom started. We know we made mistakes. No, you don't know. Not yet. But you will. I served the main course, short ribs that had been braising for 12 hours. This is what I made the night of my culinary school graduation. The night you all went to Valerie's office party instead. That's not fair, Valerie protested. It was my promotion. It was my graduation. The words exploded out of me. The biggest night of my life, and none of you showed up. Do you know who did? Stuart. Stuart, who believed in me when my own family wouldn't. Silence fell over the table. The only sound was the gentle clink of silverware as they ate, unable to deny the quality of the food before them. For dessert, I said, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands, I recreated the cake from my 10th birthday, the one where Mom announced Valerie's acceptance to business school and forgot about my birthday entirely. I placed the perfectly crafted mini cakes before them. Mom started crying silently. Every dish tonight represents a moment you chose to dismiss me, to belittle my dreams, to put someone or something else first. I finally sat down, looking at each of them in turn. And now you're here. eating in my restaurant, asking for my help because suddenly my pipe dream is worth something to you. Sweetheart, Dad began, but I held up my hand. No, don't speak yet. Finish your dessert. Then we'll talk about exactly what happens next. The last bite of dessert disappeared from their plates, leaving nowhere to hide. Mom dabbed at her eyes with a napkin while Dad stared into his empty wine glass. Valerie just looked uncomfortable, like she wanted to be anywhere else. So, I said, breaking the silence, let's talk about your request for money. Vienna, please. Mom reached across the table. We understand now. Each dish, the memories. We were terrible parents. Were? I pulled my hand back. Yesterday was the first time you've set foot in my restaurant, and only because you need something. Even now you're here for money, not because you care about what I've built. That's not true, Dad protested weakly. Really? I pulled out my phone, scrolling through messages. Let me read you my sister's Instagram post from last week. So blessed to have supportive parents who always believed in my dreams. I looked at Valerie. Must be nice. She flushed red. You're being dramatic. Dramatic? I slammed my hand on the table, making them jump. I worked myself to exhaustion while you all treated me like a joke. Do you know what it's like to have your own family bet against you? To hear your mother tell her friends that her youngest is still going through that chef phase? We were wrong, Dad said, his voice breaking. So wrong. But please, Vienna, we're about to lose everything. Like I almost lost everything. Multiple times. Where were you then? Mom started sobbing openly now. What do you want us to say? We failed you. We know that now. Now that I'm successful, I corrected her. Now that Greg O'Connor said I'm worth something. Now that you need my help. Stuart appeared in the doorway, concern etched on his face. I gave him a small nod to show I was okay. Here's what's going to happen, I said, straightening in my chair. I'm not giving you money. Not a loan, not a gift, nothing. Dad's shoulders slumped in defeat. Instead, I continued, I'm offering Dad a job. As a dishwasher. Minimum wage, just like I started. If you want to be part of my success, you'll have to earn it. The same way I did. A dishwasher? Valerie scoffed. Dad's a businessman. Was, I corrected her. And it's this or nothing. My parents exchanged looks. Finally, Dad nodded slowly. When do I start? Tomorrow, 6 a.m. sharp. I stood up, signaling the end of dinner. Oh, and one more thing, I'm buying your house. You'll rent it from me at market rate. Every payment will be on time or you're out. As they filed out, Mom turned back. We really are sorry, Vienna. I know, I said softly. But sorry isn't enough anymore. Now you get to prove it. Dad showed up at 5:45 a.m. the next day wearing a clean white shirt and black pants. His hands, once used to signing contracts, now plunged into soapy water filled with dirty dishes. I watched from my prep station as he worked silently, methodically, his designer watch replaced with a cheap digital timepiece. A week later, Greg O'Connor returned unexpectedly. He sat at the bar, observing everything, including my father scrubbing pots in the background. Interesting staff choice, he said when I came out to greet him. That's your father, isn't it? I froze. How did you... I do my research. He smiled, jotting something in his notebook. The successful daughter employing her formerly dismissive father as a dishwasher, it's quite a story. Please don't. Write about it? He raised an eyebrow. My dear, this is exactly what people want to read about. Redemption, karma, family drama, all served with a side of award-worthy short ribs. 2 days later, his article hit. From family black sheep to culinary queen, the rise of Chef Vienna. The piece detailed everything. My struggle, my family's dismissal, their financial collapse, and my unconventional response to their plea for help. The restaurant's phone exploded with reservations. People wanted to meet the chef who made her father wash dishes. Some even requested to be seated near the kitchen, hoping to glimpse the family drama firsthand. Your father's becoming quite the attraction, Stuart joked one evening. 3 different tables asked if that was really him back there. I watched Dad through the kitchen window. His hands were red from hot water, his expensive haircut growing out, but he hadn't complained once. He just kept working, head down, dish after dish. Mum started coming by too, sitting quietly at the bar during closing time, waiting for Dad's shift to end. Sometimes she'd help fold napkins or sort silverware, though nobody asked her to. "You know," Stuart said softly, "they're really trying." "I know," I sighed, watching Dad teach the new busboy how to properly stack plates. He hasn't missed a single shift, even stayed late during that rush last Saturday. "Maybe it's time to—" "Not yet," I cut him off. "They're learning what it means to work for something, to start from nothing, to prove yourself." Just then, Dad appeared with a stack of clean plates. "Where do you want these, Chef?" The word chef from his lips still felt strange, but right somehow. Like finally, he saw me. "Prep Station 3, I said, "and Dad? Good work today." His small smile was worth more than any review Greg could ever write. Sometimes I realized revenge isn't about making others suffer. It's about making them understand. The letter arrived on a busy Thursday evening, hand-delivered by Dad after his shift. He placed it on my desk without a word and went back to finish cleaning the kitchen. I recognized Mum's handwriting immediately. The envelope felt heavy, filled with what looked like several pages. "You should read it," Stuart said, catching me staring at the unopened letter. "They've both worked hard these past few months. Your dad hasn't missed a single shift, and your mum's been helping wherever she can." "Even Valerie stopped by yesterday," I admitted. "She actually apologized, said she never realized how hard this industry was until she saw Dad working." "People can change," Stuart smiled, "when you give them the chance to." I opened the letter, my hands trembling slightly. Mum's words flowed across 3 pages, detailing every moment she regretted, every time she'd chosen wrong, every opportunity she'd missed to support me. The last paragraph caught my throat. "Watching you run your kitchen, seeing the respect your staff has for you, understanding finally what you've built, it's shown me how wrong we were. Your father comes home exhausted but proud, talking about how you handle the pressure, how you treat your team, how much he's learning. We don't deserve your forgiveness, but we're grateful for the chance to earn it." I found Dad in the dish pit, scrubbing a particularly stubborn pan. "The letter," I said softly. "Did you know what Mom wrote?" He nodded, not looking up. "She spent 3 days on it, wanted to get it right." "Dad, No, let me say something first." He put down the pan, drying his hands. "These past months, washing dishes, watching you work, it's been humbling. You're not just a chef, Vienna. You're a leader. Something I never was, even at my company's peak. You're a pretty good dishwasher, though," I smiled, feeling the wall between us crumbling. "About that." He hesitated. "Stuart mentioned you need a new inventory manager. Someone good with numbers, detail-oriented." "Are you applying for a promotion, Dad?" "Only if you think I've earned it." I studied him. His pruned hands, his tired but hopeful eyes, 3 months of honest work written across his face. "Monday," I said finally. "We'll start your training Monday." "But Dad, you're still covering dish shifts when we're short-staffed." He pulled me into a hug, his wet apron soaking my chef's coat. "I wouldn't have it any other way, Chef." Over his shoulder, I saw Mom and Valerie entering through the front door, carrying what looked suspiciously like homemade cookies for the staff. Stuart gave me a knowing wink as he went to greet them. Sometimes the best revenge isn't serving a cold dish. It's watching people grow into the family you always knew they could be.